Now it's time for today's perspective on the programme, and he's just months away from being Israel's longest-serving leader. Benjamin Netanyahu, approaching now 10 years, in fact, as Prime Minister of Israel, after he also had a first term of office from 96 to 99 as well. The head of the Likud party, Netanyahu, winning praise for his staunch hardline defence of Israel. His critics, though, will accusing him of a tough, repressive approach to the Palestinians, saying he does not have any real interest in peace or the two-state solution in the Middle East. Well, now Netanyahu is fighting a tough battle, of course. He's got elections in April after the near collapse of his coalition, and a battle as well with the courts. Well, to discuss all that on the programme, I'm joined by Jean-Pierre Filiu from Sciences Po University. He's author of this book. It's called Mambas sur Israel, Netanyahu et la fin du rêve zioniste, or the end of the Zionist dream. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us on the programme. In the book, you talk about David Ben Gurion as the founder of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu as the refounder, if you like. What do you mean by that?
Well, first, the two of them have now set the record for the longest tenure in government, something like 13 years if you take into account all the time they were prime ministers. But what is more important is that Ben Gurion in 1948 founded the State of Israel with a dramatic speech for independence, where he set the rules of a democratic Israel, where all citizens would be treated alike. While Netanyahu, just last summer, passed a law, a fundamental law, constitutional law, about Israel as a nation-state of the Jewish people, where there is no more this equality and where the word democracy is absent. So just to put one personality and another in parallel.
So you really feel, I mean, it's obvious from the title that you think that the Zionist dream, if you like, of equality has gone now.
Well, if you're talking about the dream of the founding fathers of Israel, who were overwhelmingly progressive, even Marxist or socialist, yes, it's sure gone. It didn't happen in a day, but Netanyahu was really so efficient in making it happen. I see it as the embodiment of the other Israel, the other Zionism, the so-called revisionist, that is embodied in the Likud party is chairing, and that has totally rewritten the history of Israel to promote and enhance the contribution of the revisionist and the Likud, contrary to the Labour Party.
Now, of course, some supporters of Netanyahu would say he's been forced into doing that, if you like, because of the violence which has come from the other side, maybe. And also that, actually, if you look at Israel, and we mentioned at the top that how long he's been in power, that he has successfully managed to keep it safe.
Yes, certainly. But he did it also because it changed dramatically the very political life of Israel. He spent a lot of more than 20 years in the United States, and he literally Americanized the Israeli politics through punchlines, video clips, propaganda of all sorts. And of course, this dragged down the general debate in Israel to short emotional issues, and he played a lot on fear. What I insist is that the Labour Party and the founding fathers, with all their the problems they faced and they had, were carrier of hope, while basically Netanyahu is playing on fear, and that's the main difference.
It's worked for him, though, hasn't it?
It works, but what is strange when you look at the various surveys is that, in fact, a lot of what Israel is expecting is not translated into politics, because there is not the political class that would address an Israeli public that is still very much attached to values of social equality and to the prospect of peace with the Arabs.
And what about the other side of the divide? I mean, you talk about the Labour Party as obviously in a kind of affectionate way almost from what you've been saying. I mean, but at the same time, it's actually failed, hasn't it? Because it's really failed to get anywhere in the polls, at least, against Netanyahu. And we've got these elections coming up in just a couple of months' time now.
Which is why I explain the way Netanyahu very sharply, very smartly revamped the political debate in Israel and forced his opponent to come on his own ground. But in one of my chapters, I describe how he fought against Rabin, the Labour Prime Minister who was assassinated in 1995, but also against Sharon, his mentor at the Likud party, who ended his political life by reshaping in 2006 the Israeli landscape at the center with a centrist party. So it's not only that he was fighting against the left and the Labour, but he wanted to rule Israel at the far right. And this is his own choice. It was not imposed by the reality of the country.
So do you think there's any way that we'll see the end of Benjamin Netanyahu in a couple of months' time in these elections?
Well, already the very fact that you're asking the questions means that an earthquake happened in Israel, because before nobody could ever dreamed he was not untouchable. Now we see that there could be a life in Israel after Netanyahu, so that's already his main defeat. But the guy is sharp. He's a fighter. He was very brave when he fought for 5 years in the special forces of Israel, and he proved at many occasions during his political life that he won't abandon the fight until the very last second. So it will be a very lively campaign, and everything could happen until the end.
I mean, he's going to have to be a fighter as well, because not only has he got the elections to contend with, he's also got these legal cases hanging over him as well, which could see his time come to an end.
Yes, the Israeli police has already called for the indictment of Netanyahu in 3 cases of bribery and fraud. One has to remember that in 1977, the information that the Prime Minister's wife, then Yitzhak Rabin, had a bank account in dollars in the United States, pretty legal bank account, but it was against the exchange regulation in Israel, was enough for Rabin to resign. While now you have every day more and more leaks about juicy details of those various corruption cases, and instead of making it plain, Netanyahu is accusing the left, the media, the justice, the NGOs of plotting against him because he is Mr. Security.
And just in a couple of words, I mean, if he loses, it won't be because of the corruption cases, though, will it? It'll be because of his politics, or a bit of each, do you think?
Again, when somebody has decided that every part of his own life is what defines Israel, then he becomes weaker and more vulnerable. If he's indicted before the elections, that could weigh a lot. And if he's indicted after the election, this could also force the Israeli President Reuven Rivlin to choose somebody else to form the government, because his indictment will make him a no-go.
Thank you very much for being with us on the programme. Jean-Pierre Filiu, that's his book, M'Ambassadeur Israël Netanyahu et la fin du rêve zioniste. Thanks very much for being with us on the programme.